Well, another head coaching opening has come and gone, and with it, Mike Elko's name continues to come up. This would be the one that I actually think, if offered, he would take. So let's go ahead and break down why Virginia Tech might be the best fit for Mike Elko.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of Locked On Aggies, presented by the Locked On Podcast Network. Cole Thompson back here in the driver's seat talking all things Texas A&M, and today, let's break down why Mike Elko might be the number one option for Virginia Tech. This actually feels to me like the one place he would go, or one more should another coach go with him. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. You can check us out every Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.com. We got a brand new YouTube channel. We want to continue to grow the content. Make sure you're following us there. And of course, you can always listen to us at LockedOnPodcast.com. I am the host of the show, Cole Thompson. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Mr. Cole Thompson, name right down there below. And I love public feedback. Anything you can do to make this a more quality-sounding podcast Monday through Friday, give me a follow, give me a shout-out, and I will add it into the mix. Secondly, make sure you're tuned into Locked On Aggies and allaggies.com. It is your number one source for all things A&M-related content found here on LOP and part of Fan Nation. Subscribe on iTunes, listen on Spotify, listen at LockedOnPodcast.com, and check out all of our great work at allaggies.com. All right, so Justin Fuente is out at Virginia Tech after 6 long seasons. It is his tenure that has been kind of a mixed bag. He finishes 24 and 23 all time. He had 2 really good years at the very start, right after he was at Memphis, and we kind of saw what would come into fruition from that deal. The last 4 years, he's finished with 5 losses or more. Right now that they are vying for even a bowl game, right, because of, they're sitting at 4-6, I want to say. They're not 5-5, so they're 4-6 right now. They have to win out to be able to get there. The deal was, and this is really funny, because of when you hear these kind of things, it makes you question and ponder what the necessities are and whatnot. So if he were have to been fired after December 1st, they only would have had to pay him $7 million. Instead, they let him go mid-November, and the deal with that is now they have to pay him a full $9 million. So $2 million is a big difference. And basically what it's saying is, we do not want recruits thinking that you're here. We need to make sure that we go in the right direction. We need to bring somebody in as quickly as possible to show that this is who is really going to be your coach during your time in Blacksburg. So that was the big deal. One of the marquee reasons why I do think Mike Elko would be a big fit, and we'll go into a little bit more detail afterwards, is recruiting and defense. The Hokies were one of these teams that finished at about 103rd last year in total defense. They finished below the 50 margin line in recruiting, and right now they have never finished above 24 in recruiting under the Justin Fuente era. That was his best year, and that came in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. The defense has slowly regressed year in and year in and year in and year in after Bud Foster elected to retire. Bud Foster is one of these guys who's beamer ball, everything that we saw from Bud, personally, and I'll just be completely honest with you. When Frank Beamer retired, my first saying was, and I remember I was 20, I think I was 21 at the time when he retired. Yeah, I was either 21 or 22. Either way, I said that Bud Foster should just get promoted and get the job. He's earned it. He has had, legacy during his time at Virginia Tech. He had earned the right to at least be given a shot, and it said he wasn't. He was retained by Fuente, and ever since Fuente, kind of was there, the defense just slowly regressed. And then when Foster retired in 2019, it dropped from number 58 to about number 72, to about number 84. Last year they were 103. This year they're ranked 72nd overall, and they're 5th inside of the inside of the ACC. I think they're actually 7th or 8th in scoring defense. So they've regressed immensely. And then recruiting is another big thing. So those are 2 areas where I do think that you need to upgrade. I think the other thing that you got to look at as a whole, if you are, I'm blanking on the commissioner's name, not Mike Babbitt. I know it's Babbitt is his last name, but Babbitt's probably looking for somebody who can contend within 2 years. That's the biggest key. Because you look at the ACC right now, it's an influx of just complete and total madness. There really is not a right answer. There really is no direction. Pat Narduzzi, Sam Hartman, Pat Narduzzi and Kenny Pickett, Dave Clawson and Sam Hartman, they're probably going to be the two representatives inside the ACC Championship in Charlotte later this December. And after this year, you're basically looking at potentially a complete and total influx of these two teams. Wake Forest is going to be going away. I don't think they're going to be that strong. You're losing Pickett. You're losing so many different names in the sense of... hang on, guys. Come here. You can say hi to Paisley. Sorry, she was biting me down below. They're going to be losing a lot of names. Hartman's probably going to the NFL. They've already lost some transfers. They're going to be losing a couple wide receivers, a couple offensive linemen, and the defense has really regressed for Clawson. This may actually be his best shot to leave Winston-Salem to be able to go to a more more prominent Power 5 program. A lot of people I've spoken to have said that they believe Clawson's going to actually be in the running for the Hokies job. Outside of Clemson, it really is an influx of who's who. You don't really have Miami playing good football right now. You don't really have NC State playing exceptional football. UNC regressed after last year. There was a rumor that Mac Brown was going to retire. He's not. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's already been confirmed. He's not going anywhere. And this is their best recruiting class, but that doesn't mean much. Duke had its few years of really goodness. You had Virginia, they were really good at one point, but there's no real connection. Like everyone inside of the ACC, you're basically banking on Clemson to be the main guy, and if they're regressing, it's really wide open. So if you're a Virginia Tech fan and you're somebody looking at Virginia Tech and you're Babbitt, you want to be able to contend within 2 years along with the maybe North Carolinas, with maybe the Clemsons, with maybe the Miami if they get the right hire, because I do think Manny Diaz will be fired now that their athletic director is also out of the picture. So with that in mind, why does Mike Elko make the most sense? Well, we're going to go ahead and break into that. But before I do, this episode of Locked On Aggies is brought to you by Made In. It is your favorite utensils and microwave kitchenware that you want to have around the house. It is a perfect thing. If you're serious about cooking, you need to invest in tools. It's Made In cookware and kitchenware products are used by thousands across the world, including some of the best chefs. I have tried their hand stick pans. Every single time that I make a bacon in the pan, it just immediately flies right off. They're professionally quality cookware that people who love to cook. They're made products inside to last a lifetime guarantee. They have over 40,000 five-star reviews of their products and are used by some of the world's best chefs and are Michelin-starred in restaurants around the world. Made In, cook better for better meals. Right now, Made In is offering a 15% discount on first orders when you use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKENED, capital O-N. That's capital O-N. This is the best discount available wherever you can get a Made In product. Go to Made In Cookware /LockedOn. Use the promo code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first order. Made In, better cookware for better meals today. Locked On Aggies, presented by the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making your first listen every single day right here on LOP. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Mike Elko and his status here. Let's start with the first thing, defense. Guy's a defense coordinator. Guy has immediately transferred Texas A&M into one of the best defensive coordinators. One of the best defensive lines in the country year in and year out. And this has been going on for about 3 years now. People want to just focus in on DeMarvin Leal, and they want to focus in on what Jaden Peavy's doing, and what Michael Clemens is doing, and what Tyree Johnson is doing. And keep in mind that Justin Madubuike also has had a very successful start to his NFL career. And you have to also keep in mind what Bobby Brown has done since coming to the NFL. And they both came from this defense. And then you also can add in guys like Kingsley Keke and Daylon Mack. And even though they weren't recruited by A&M, Elko helped develop them into NFL caliber level. Keke is actually a starter in Green Bay. So you're watching the development of talent on the defensive line when you look at what Beamer ball is and what is the staple of Virginia Tech. It's great defense, it's good recruiting, and great special teams. You close out the door on one of those, really two of those, but we'll just focus on the one right now. Beamer ball defensive line, when you go get good play from these Hokies with you got a guy like Mike Elko in the building. Number two is recruiting. When I look at the ACC, it really should be a two-man race, in my opinion. It should be Miami and it should be Clemson. They should be the top tier. And they're not. Clemson is, but it's Clemson. Dabo Swinney has done a fantastic job. He's kept a lot of his coaches and a lot of his marquee recruiters inside of South Carolina to make sure that they are competitive. But look at Miami. They have completely regressed over the last few years. Actually, you're seeing North Carolina kind of take that shot up. Philip Luongo has done a really nice job being able to develop the talent and really work that horseshoe area of North Carolina. You also go through a little bit of South Carolina. They've taken some recruits away from South Carolina, University, and then you also got to look at the likes of Clemson. They've taken a few players away from that aspect too. So add all that together, what that means to me at least is you can have a way to win inside of Virginia. On top of that, Virginia is a really nice breeding bed. You can look at Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of good talent coming out of there in recent years. Tyree Johnson's one. Caleb Williams at Oklahoma is another. So you do see the level of talent kind of in that area. And it is an area that in the last few years, Texas A&M has started to heavily recruit. You look at North Carolina, you look at South Carolina, you look at Missouri, you look at Tennessee. Some of the main guys, you have Dallas Walker from Tennessee. Chris Morris, when he was on the roster, was in East Arkansas. You have Musa Muhammad III. He was from North Carolina. So you're kind of recruiting in the same area, and you probably could actually get a few transfers to follow you to Blacksburg to make an immediate impact. I would not be shocked if Elko got hired. He would take a quarterback with him. Maybe it would be Zach Calzada. Maybe it would be Haynes King. Maybe it would be I don't think it would be Connor Whiteman. I don't. Maybe it would be Eli Stowers. Remember, he's playing tight end right now. He's not playing quarterback. So add all this together, rewind, kind of look at it. There's a lot of recruiting areas in there, and the way that the ACC is, that number 2 spot is up for grabs year in and year out. And with an elite recruiter like Elko that's exactly what you're looking for if you're Babbitt. You want to bring in somebody who knows how to recruit, who knows how to bring the program back. The third thing, and there's 4 total. The third thing, and this is the big one for me, culture. Look at Texas A&M's culture. Look at how they listen, how they follow, how they just eat at everything that Jimbo Fisher is saying, what he's preaching. And that's a big part of what Elko is saying when it comes to building the right culture, the right fit. And on top of that, it's about making sure that recruits understand this is what you're playing for. This is why you're coming to College Station. This is why you like Texas A&M. So he's done that. And he's done a fantastic job of spreading the message of what they expect from their players from the 12th man. He could easily implement something very similar. What we saw with Beamer Ball for years and years and years, for decades, for the Hokies. You can see something very similar like that happen again in Blacksburg with a defensive hire. Keep in mind also that they just went offensive hire. Justin Fuente went to TCU for many years. He was the offense coordinator there underneath Gary Patterson. After that, they went into a more he went to Memphis. He helped build that offense up. Paxton Lynch is not a good NFL quarterback. We all know that, but he was a very good college quarterback, and he was a first-round pick for a reason because they really liked what they saw from him coming out of Memphis, and that was a big part of what you saw from both Mike Norvell and on top of that, also Justin Fuente. They played a big part into that. So culture is a big deal, and you'd be able to get a few more transfers. But the biggest reason why I think that Mike Elko would make sense here, the ties. So Mike Elko is not from Texas. Mike Elko, I believe, is from Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's from that Eastern Coast area. He has coached more so before anywhere else in his life, basically East Coast the entire time. He got his big shot when he was at Bowling Green with Dave Clawson. Clawson brought him down to Wake Forest to be the defense coordinator. 2 years after he was at Wake Forest, he got offered the Notre Dame defense coordinator position, and 2 years later, he was offered Texas A&M. He has ties to that area. He knows how to recruit that area. He knows what they're looking for in that area. He understands what the type of talent is. He knows what talents, what coaches, what areas are really loaded with rich 4- and 5-star talents. And on top of that, Virginia Tech right now may be the best school in the state of Virginia. You look at what's going on with Hugh Freeze at Liberty. I do believe he will get a Power 5 job either this year or next year. I would not be shocked to see him be in the running for Miami if they fire Manny Diaz. I could see them probably going after him at Virginia Tech as well. You look at Virginia, Bronco Mendenhall has sincerely regressed over the last 2 years, and Virginia Tech is kind of a staple of the ACC. When I think of the ACC, I think of 4 main teams, if I'm being completely honest. 5 really, because I include basketball in this. Clemson for football, Miami for football. I think Virginia Tech for both football and basketball. Duke and North Carolina for basketball. That's what I think of when I think of the ACC. So the fact that Virginia Tech is in that running, that Virginia Tech's name is in that spectrum, shows that they can easily help our recruiting. All you got to do is say, we're the best school. We're the most consistent school inside of Virginia. And if you want to stay close to home, you can play for us. It will be an easy transition. You will have nothing to worry about. You'll be able to help represent your state. And the way the ACC is built, you can win a title. He has ties to the ACC. He has worked in the ACC for multiple years. He has ties with several coaches up there. They would probably give him the mum's the word of being a great coordinator. This, to me, feels like a safe hire. Now, what I will say as well, and I will bring this up just for preface, I do think that if there was an opportunity and Dave Clawson gives him a phone call and says, hey, I got hired to go be the next head coach at Virginia Tech, I have already told them they need to hire you at Wake Forest. If they offer him a right deal, I could see him going to Wake Forest too. Wake Forest was really his big break. When you watched how the Demon Deacons defense was a few years ago in the very early years of what Dave Clawson era was in Winston-Salem, you saw how much the defense actually carried the offense. It was way before Jamie Newman. It was way before Sam Hartman arrived. This was a team that actually played really good defense. One of his biggest marquee names that he ever had there was Jesse Bates, the free safety for the Cincinnati Bengals. Another one was Duke Ejiofor. He helped both of those two transform into top-tier all-ACC players, and they have done one has done a fantastic job. Ejiofor didn't work out in the NFL. He was terrible for the Texans, but Jesse Bates has been an absolute steal and a gem for the Cincinnati Bengals. He arguably, in my opinion, is the best safety in the NFL right now. And when you pair that with the way that he's able to produce the defensive line, and when you pair what he has with his history at Winston-Salem, I would also see him being a shoo-in, maybe even the lead guy at Wake Forest, because he's made by Dave Clawson, and Clawson and him have a good relationship. So I could see that happening as well. College football is coming down to an end. The NFL season is at midway point, but college basketball and the NBA are in full swing. So make sure you go to the one place we love and the one place we trust. That's betonline.ag. BetOnline.ag gives you the best buyouts, the best bets, and gives you all the up-to-date information on odds, props, and so much more. It remains your number one spot for all things betting, from football to basketball to NHL to boxing to UFC to all your favorite Vegas casino games. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the action. Receive a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. 50% off when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbooks experts. Locked On Aggies, presented by the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's go ahead and give you my predictions. Listen, guys, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I love covering A&M, but I love the fact that I get to cover, for my other job, all national teams. I get to go ahead and look, top to bottom and everything. So I do look at every team, and I do look at what are some teams that are very good, what are some teams that are very bad, who are the right head coaches, who are the names on the rise. My first pick would not be Mike Elko if I'm Virginia Tech. And the only reason it wouldn't be was because I think I need somebody who has offensive experience. You look at what's been going on at Wake Forest this year, and the reason why Dave Clawson has become such a hot name is not because of defensive play. The Demon Deacons are absolutely atrocious on defense. They're one of the worst defenses in the ACC. They're one of the worst defenses in all of college football. But the offense is clicking, and the offense is moving, and the offense is able to put up point after point after point after point, and it makes it look easy. And you look at what Clemson's dealing with. A very mundane, tragic offense since the loss of Trevor Lawrence to Travis Etienne. Justin Ross is going to the NFL now. His season's over. They don't have an offensive identity. They do have a defensive identity. And you're still seeing them struggle in defensive games. Sure, they're winning still, and they're 7-3 on the year, and that's a good number, but they're not a good team. So when I look at defensive play, it's great, but you better have a great up-and-coming offense coordinator to come with you. If not, and you need to go win in recruiting, and you need to go win offensively, and you think that offensively putting up points like Wake Forest did this past year is the best plan of action, that's the way you got to go. Now, there's two names that I would go with. Number one, I'll go with the easy one, Jamie Chadwell. Jamie Chadwell's right up the road. He has East Tennessee vibes. He's in South Carolina. It'd be a quick jump up. He knows how to recruit very well. He's done a fantastic job building the chain of clears up from a program that was nothing into something, going from the FCS level to the FBS level. They have made the immediate impact without question, and they are looking more and more like a legitimate Power 5 program on the rise. I would love to have seen them maybe get an opportunity to go to the AAC. I thought them and Appalachian State leading the Sun Belt would have proven that they were the two best teams, which, in my opinion, they are. They 100% are. Them them, Appalachian State, and Louisiana are consistently the three best teams inside the Sun Belt. I would include them in the AAC. I think that they're right on the cusp of being more of a Power 5 school. I would not have included North Texas. I would have not included Rice. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's, you're not doing anyone any favors. You're not doing anyone anything good. I think UTSA is fair. The other one isn't. So Jamie Chadwell, his offense, what he's done with Grayson McCall the last 2 years, how he's been able to win games, how he's been able to put up an immense amount of points. McCall's been one of the best quarterbacks when it comes to completion rating inside of college football. I would very much like him there. That'd be my number 2 selection. Number 3 would be Elko. I'll give you that. Number 1 to me is an easy one. It's the one that I think everyone's kind of been talking about. It's kind of the one where people are saying, oh, well, would he be a secondary option at LSU? Would he actually be in the running for LSU? Is he waiting for LSU to call him? It's Billy Napier. Billy Napier is the number 1 pick for me because Billy Napier has ties to the ACC. He worked at Clemson. He worked for Dabo Swinney. I think he was actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was Dabo's first or second offensive coordinator. I do think that he would be a really, really, really nice fit in the ACC because of his ties. He's a Nick Saban assistant. That immediately gives you kind of a check mark. He's worked from the West Coast to the East Coast, and he's recruited quite well in all 3 areas. He's recruited well in Alabama. He's recruited well in South Carolina. He's recruited well in Arizona when he was at Arizona State, and he's recruited extremely well for the Raging Cajuns at Louisiana. So he knows broad areas. He could sell Blacksburg to somebody out in California. He could sell Blacksburg to somebody out in Arizona. He could sell Blacksburg to somebody out in Nevada. He can also work well in North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, those little areas. And then he also has ties to Texas. Napier's biggest goal in life, and I don't think anybody's going to deny this, and it would make a lot of sense, and I do think ultimately he will get his opportunity if he continues to do what he's doing, is to be the next head coach at Alabama. I can tell you right now as an Alabama grad and as somebody who has covered the team and has covered the SEC, if you want to go to the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Texas A&Ms, the Floridas of the world, you got to work at a Power 5 school. You have to. Part of the reason Dan Mullen was the easy choice to go to Florida was not just because he worked as Florida's offensive coordinator, but because he was really successful at Mississippi State. And Mississippi State's a Power 5 school. Part of the reason Justin Fuente has felt like kind of a lost hire is because if he went from a non-Power 5 school to a Power 5 school. Sometimes you're really good at non-Power 5. Sometimes you just can't make the transition from that next level. It's part of the reason why people at Texas are kind of freaking out about Sark right now. I think Steve Sarkisian's the right hire. I believe in him. I still say give him 1 more year and then he'll turn the program into probably 8 wins, 9 wins. Maybe that's not what Texas wants, but it's kind of what Texas needs right now. Double their wins from a year before. That's exactly what I would be looking at. But a guy like Billy Napier needs to have an opportunity to go if he wants to get to Alabama. He has to go coach at a Power 5 school. That's just the reality of it. He knows the area. He's an offensive mind. He's somebody who has worked inside of the vicinities. He's somebody who has experience as a recruiter. He's a lead in that aspect. He's a Nick Saban disciple. And let's add one more thing, and this is the big thing. Winner. Look at his record at Louisiana. He's 35-12 over the last 4 years. He already has clinched up. He's already clinched up. This is really sad. He had clinched up 2.5 weeks ago, the Sun Belt. He had already clinched it up for the regular season. Why? Look at the level of competition between him and Louisiana. And on top of all that, this is a year where I feel like he has to go. He has to leave and he has to go to another program because Levi Lewis is gone and Elijah Mitchell's gone and they're losing 2 wide receivers and they're losing 4 offensive linemen and they're losing 6 defenders. And he's not recruiting in the top 15 or he's not recruiting in the top 25 like he did 2 years ago. So all this talent that's already here, that's proven, that's helped him become the next big-time non-Power 5 school name is leaving. Is he going to be a hot commodity in 2023? Or is he only going to be a hot commodity in 2022? He knows how to coach offense. He understands the concept. He's been in the ACC. He's worked with Sweeney. He's worked with Nick Saban. He's an elite recruiter, and you can sell the program in ease. Listen, you want to go to Alabama? We totally get it. We totally get that one day you want to go to Alabama. But the best way for you to get there faster and be the guy who replaces Nick Saban is to help us win in the ACC. You do that, we find the next guy kind of in waiting. Maybe you bring on a really good up-and-coming offensive coordinator. Maybe you bring on a hotshot defense coordinator who can be the next Beamer Ball. We go ahead. We go bring them in. They kind of are groomed for you. As long as you keep winning for us, 10 wins, 10 wins, 10 wins, and 3 years from now, you're 30-6, 30-7. Yeah, I think you're pretty much set. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Aggies. Make sure you're following me on social media. I'll be back here tomorrow to talk all things Texas A&M. We'll talk a little bit about the Texas Thursday rankings. We'll do all that. See you tomorrow, and remember, kick 'em, y'all.